Hello, one and all, is my view of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, Chapter 96, Negotiations. And I know this might sound strange, but I feel like my favorite part of this chapter was Koichi's father. Now, we do have this very brief text exchange between the two of them, but it really did speak volumes. I mean, let's not forget, Koichi is wanted by the police for questioning. He has some involvement with a serial terrorist Pop, and he fought the #2 freaking hero. Any parent would have the right to be very, very concerned about their child in this situation. In fact, he even says he has a million missed calls from his mom, which, knowing her, might not be an exaggeration, so I'm going to assume she's making his father's life very, very difficult. But his father just texts him and asks him, hey, is there anything I can do to help right now? And when Koichi says he's fine, his father responds with, got it. Now, you might interpret that as his father not caring, but I viewed it as his father, having faith in Koichi, trusting that he's doing what he thinks is right, that he's doing the right thing in the situation, and I really do like that. I am hoping we see more of his father moving forward. I mean, the only other time I can think of him even being mentioned is when he called Koichi way, way back in the start of the series to warn him that his mother was coming for surprise visits. So yeah, I definitely like if he came back, maybe him and Koichi's mother could come to town to visit him after this whole situation clears up, and then Koichi can introduce them to his new girlfriend, Pop. Oh, I love that. Absolutely freaking love that. And speaking of characters they want to see more of, Pop's entire dance team comes to the cat cafe being run by those former villains. This is such a weird mix of people all, here because they basically just care about Pop. I absolutely freaking love that. And, I am hoping that when this eventually is all settled, they have a welcome home party for Pop, at the cafe. I think that'd be such an adorable way to end the series, Big final party with everyone, with the former villains, with her team, Midnight, Racerhead, Ingenium maybe, that's a question for later. All of them just celebrating here in this collaboration made by, all the good things that Koichi and Pop have done throughout the series. I absolutely freaking love to see that. Anyway, then Koichi stops to have some lunch, and you just really have to appreciate how far he's come since the start of the series. I mean, in the first chapter, he was moving along the ground at the speed of a bicycle. Now he did a double jump, leaping from building to building, and didn't even realize how insane that was until it was pointed out to him. I mean, seriously, he is flying through the air here. I mean, I know he flew much, much higher than that in his battle against Endeavor, but that was more of an adrenaline thing, and, afterwards he had no real landing strategy other than just basically falling in the suicide net that his friends set up for him. This is much more controlled, much more casual, and, he really has improved, and I so cannot wait to see how he does in the next fights. Anyway, he's also told that his apartment was broken into, but he doesn't actually care all that much because he has nothing really of value in there. I mean, seriously, he has his phone and his hero suit with his body armor on him right now. That's basically the only thing of worth that he owns. I mean, he's a broke college student. And I do think it's interesting that Soga commented about the whole area around his apartment as being redeveloped. Because let's not forget, it was said way back when that Koichi's lease is borderline illegal, and that sooner or later, someday, someone's going to come to him and say, hey, we're demolishing this building, get out. So I think that's definitely going to happen before the series comes to an end. His apartment is the Crawler Nest, the headquarters for his vigilante activities. So once that's gone, it'll basically be the end of his time as a Crawler. It'll basically be a sign of his retirement. I'm curious about that, but I'm also very impressed with Soga. I mean, he's looking at this crime scene like a detective, analyzing things, looking at the dust patterns, all of that, and it really is just showing how much he's grown from who he was, the first couple chapters. And then we get this box covered in a cloth, and seriously, what the freak is this thing? I mean, if it was something left by Knuckle Duster, I think he would have just left it in Koichi's apartment, and if it was, a bomb or something left by Six, there's no reason for him to, leave it there and then walk away. He could easily, blow up the building as soon as he, got outside the front door. So what is it? I mean, a lot of people are speculating it's from Knuckle Duster, so I'm going to assume that moving forward. As for why it wasn't in Koichi's apartment, maybe he just didn't want the police to find it or something like that. Possibilities as for what it might be. Evidence against Six would make sense, but I don't think it'd have to be, that big. Speaker system, that would make a certain amount of sense. Knuckle Duster used speakers against Six, forcing his brain to accelerate to the point where he couldn't control it anymore and basically exhausted him. So something like that they can use against Six would make sense. A theory I am seeing a lot online is that it's basically a new hero suit for Koichi, for the Crawler. And that does actually make a lot of sense. I mean, Koichi's old suit was designed for who he used to be. He is not that person anymore. I mean, for one thing, he can fly, more or less. So some sort of wing-based system, some sort of gliding system would be very, very helpful, allowing him to slow his descent so he doesn't have to use so much power anymore. he's also fighting against 6, who has, bullets and bombs, so some sort of thicker armor, some sort of heat-resistant armor would definitely make sense for him. Then there's his blast shots. I'm not sure what can be done to improve them. Some sort of lens that can better focus them, or some sort of stabilizer for his arm that can give him better accuracy. That might come in handy. I mean, he is already pretty strong and pretty accurate. And finally, there's the hoodie. Now this is admittedly insane. Almost zero chance is actually true, but what if at some point Pop told Knuckle Duster about the hoodie story, about how Koichi saved her, and Knuckle Duster then broke into her house, stole the hoodie, and included it in this pile so that, Koichi could wear this in his big final fight against 6. He could, basically wear the representation of Pop on himself and be boosted by that in this big fight. I mean, that makes almost no sense whatsoever, but I would love to see that. I mean, sooner or later, that hoodie has to come into play. Koichi said that when he runs out of hoodies, that means he'll stop being the Crawler. It'll be an end of his vigilante activities. And he still has that last hoodie. He still has Pop's hoodie waiting in the wings to be used for some reason, for some purpose. I just feel like it has to play some sort of role in the final battle, but I guess we'll see about that. And then the detective shows up to guard Pop, and I just absolutely freaking love how Soga demolished the detective, basically saying, well, you took your sweet time coming here, and even now that you're here, you can't stay here forever. You can't defend Pop throughout the entirety of her recovery. You don't have the resources for it, especially because you designated her as a villain. And the detective is just sweating because he realized, Soga's right. There are holes, there are cracks in the hero system, in the justice system that need to be fixed, that need to be filled in. And I think this is foreshadowing something I've been theorizing for a long time. Private Citizen Heroes, basically a program where retired heroes can give lessons, do courses to ordinary citizens about analyzing a situation, doing basic detective work, self-defense, de-escalating situation, knowing when to call in the heroes. Basically, exactly what Knuckle Duster has been doing for Koichi, Soga, and Pop throughout the entirety of the series. A simple license that ordinary citizens can get that allow them to use their quirks in designated situations. For self-defense, if they see someone being attacked, if they're attacked, if they see someone in need, something like that, they can use their quirks in those specific situations. Obviously not the same level as heroes, getting the big, huge brawls in the middle of downtown Tokyo, but smaller situations, like Koichi has been doing throughout the entire series. And I'm very curious about that. And speaking of Koichi, they issue an arrest warrant for him, and I just freaking love how they have the black bar over his eyes, while he still has that big, croofy smile. It's such a weird mix, but it works so well for him, it's freaking hilarious. There is definitely an interesting note that he's just being charged for repeated unauthorized quirk use. Not terrorism, not anything crazy like that, not fighting the number 2 hero Endeavor. Just unauthorized quirk use. But even the detective saying, they're just doing this to try and keep him safe, to make sure that he doesn't get himself killed with his vigilante activities, get himself killed while he's trying to defend Pop. And then Soga outsmarts the detective once again, basically giving Koichi a warning that the cops are there and he needs to make a run for it. And then Soga makes a run for it, which is interesting. I mean, I'm definitely curious that the detective isn't able to follow him because, he has to focus on protecting Pop, but where exactly is Soga going? I do think it has something to do with that box that Soga found, which maybe has some sort of quirk enhancer or special armor or something that Koichi needs for his battle against 6. But before we get to that, we first have Koichi's battle against Ingenium! Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. Koichi versus Ingenium. Seriously, who do you think is going to win this fight? Honestly, I like Koichi's chances of winning this. I mean, Ingenium, he is really fast, really powerful, but at the same time, he is a runner. That's, how his quirk works. He's only really good at running, in straight lines with some slight turns, even that he's not all that great at. Koichi, on the other hand, can freaking fly, and he's much better at turning than Ingenium is, so yeah, I don't think this is actually all that great of a matchup. I mean, in terms of speed, I definitely think Ingenium could win, though. Oh, I'd absolutely love to see a race between the two of them, on a straightway highway. That'd be so amazing to see. That'd be so amazing to say. But if we are actually talking about, a battle here, Ingenium trying to capture him, I really don't think he can, though it should definitely be noted, Ingenium doesn't fight alone. He has a whole team backing him up and supporting him with all their own basic quirks and abilities. And the whole focus of his hero company is basically teamwork, so it's not going to be him fighting alone. It's definitely going to be, collaborated efforts, which might be enough to take out Koichi. It might be enough. Very, very curious. Though it is definitely interesting that, right now we have 3 different speedsters in the series. We have Ingenium, we have Koichi, and we have 6. And they all have very different styles despite being speedsters, so curious. Also, is Ingenium actually going to attempt to arrest his jogging buddy? I mean, that seems very unlikely. He's always been supportive of Koichi's vigilante activities, even saying, that's the place where he belongs. So, curious. I mean, I feel like, as a professional hero, maybe Ingenium isn't able to reject the job. In order to fulfill his duty, he has to actually do what the government says. So if they say, go arrest this villain, he has to do it because the police ordered him to. I mean, on the other hand, though, let's also forget, they aren't trying to charge Koichi with terrorism. They're just trying to keep him off the streets so he doesn't get himself killed. And Ingenium would definitely, want to make sure Koichi doesn't die. So this might be, him trying to do his own way to defend him, to save him, to protect him. But though I definitely think this battle could end with Ingenium realizing, how strong Koichi's become since he first met him, realizing, okay, you know what, no matter who he fights up against, Koichi is going to be okay. He's going to be fine. So just go crazy, Koichi. Fight 6. Do your thing. Also, now that Koichi is no longer defending Pop, I definitely think this is the time for 6 to make his move to attack the hospital. I mean, yeah, the detective brought some cops, but so what? They are cops. They don't even have any quirks specified for combat. They aren't even allowed to use their quirks for combat. I mean, if you brought, Eraserhead, Eraserhead was actually called, so he might be close by. That might be a different scenario, but cops aren't going to do a whole lot to stop 6. It's just not going to work that way. So very, very curious. Next chapter, we're going to get Koichi versus Ingenium, and like I said, in a full-on race, I feel like Ingenium could win, but Koichi has much more maneuverability, so I feel like he could easily escape Ingenium, and while it's going on, I think 6 is going to make his move, attack the hospital, and then Ingenium and Koichi have to team up to get to the hospital as fast as possible and save Pop. Maybe somewhere along the way, Soga can come in with a new hero suit for Koichi. I mean, if that is the case, I'm not sure when exactly he's going to have time to get changed. Maybe while they're driving there. Very, very curious about all of that. Though, like I said, they did call Eraserhead, so maybe this operation is actually bigger than we realized. Like, maybe the plan is actually to lure Koichi away to make 6 think that the hospital is no longer safe, so he'll attack it, and then, Eraserhead and a bunch of the other heroes are going to show up and fight him. That would make a certain amount of sense, but again, I still think we need to have, Koichi versus 6, that big final battle somehow, some way. This chapter definitely raised a lot of questions about what's going to happen next, and I'm just so excited for this big battle, Ingenium versus the Crawler. Cannot wait for that. But please, let me know all down below. Who's going to win? What's 6 going to do? Is there more to this plan than what we've seen so far? Let me know all down below. But you like to share this video. Until then, peace!